Well, a big happy new year to our NBL Now family, back for another episode on New Year's Day after an intriguing night of hoops in the Hungry Jacks NBL. Joel Peterson and Brad Rosen with you. Brad, good morning and a very happy new year to you.
Joel, happy new year and happy new year to everyone. Thanks for having me.
It's very good to have you along with us. We were both on the call last night. You called Illawarra, Southeast Melbourne. I called Cairns in New Zealand. One game was far more intriguing than the other. However, the late game had its little bits to break up as well. Let's start with the early game though. An absolute barn burner between Southeast Melbourne and Illawarra. High scoring. It went right down to the wire. A couple of minutes left. Still looked like either team could have won it. Ultimately, it's the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix who get it done by a handful of points. How impressed were you with what you saw up close and personal last night?
Brilliant. I walked in there and I'm thinking, what am I going to expect here? Illawarra had absolutely been humming in December. You've got Southeast Melbourne Phoenix that hadn't played a game for 10 days. Were they going to come out hard? Was it going to be soft? And, which way are they going to go? And they just came out bang, and they were unbelievable. That was one of the most exciting games that I've seen this year. The energy in that Illawarra arena was outstanding. It was sold out. The New Year's Eve presence was all there. And then Southeast, I didn't think Illawarra played that bad. They just couldn't make a three, right? You look at all the stats, it was all fine. They just couldn't knock it down. Attention to detail in the last quarter, but take nothing away from Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. I cannot believe this team were 0-5. They're now, I think it's 8-3, if I'm not mistaken, just under Josh King. He has been unbelievable. He is up and down that side. Man, he is like a crazed lunatic up there. I love him. His passion is just brilliant. But they were amazing last night. Derek Walton Jr., that was the MVP that we saw in the grand final series a few seasons ago. And Joe Wieskamp, man, I love that guy. There is just something about him that I loved, and we saw it last night. Shout out to Nathan Sobey. He was brilliant.
Is that the kind of win that sort of franks their form as a contender?
Dare I say it, they are the contenders. Watching that last night, there is absolutely no reason that they can't say to themselves now, that's where we draw a line in the sand and we're not going below that. They play like that. That was on the road against the best team in the league. They play like that. They were up and in, they're diving on balls. They wanted that more than the opposition last night. That's as simple as it is. When the ball was on the floor, it was going to the Phoenix.
And their stars are coming back at the right time and coming into form at the right time. There's been a lot made about their big names. Nathan Sobey's always a point of discussion. Derek Walton Jr. and his fitness and what level he can get back to. Geordie Hunter's stringing game after game of really solid basketball together, and that's just sort of starting out with a few of them. We know what Matt Hurt can do. You spoke about Joe Wieskamp and his impact. Just seems like the wheel is turning at the right time for Southeast Melbourne as far as their best players and their performances.
Well, it's just no let up. And, Josh King, a little thing happened last night where Vodanovic missed an assignment on the defensive end and he dragged him straight away. The guy had played like a minute. Now, some people might think that's harsh. No, that's the attention to details. Josh King says, I need that from everyone. But what was even better, then he put him back on a little bit later. So it wasn't like, hey, you've missed your assignment, sit there, I'm not putting you on again. It was, you've missed your assignment. That's not how this club goes. This is not how we're playing. Don't do it again. Now go back in there. You're in the naughty corner for a couple of minutes, but now go back and you can get back on the court. And he did a good job when he went back on. Really, really impressive game by the Southeast. But I don't want to sit here and say, oh, well, it was only one game. Why is Brad, this is crazy, man. It's just one game. It was how they won it. They came there with a game plan. They stuck to it. The coaching was outstanding. Take nothing away from Tatum as well. That was as a coaching mind that I love. I love the coaching side of it. That was two outstanding coaches last night going head to head in a battle, and I loved every minute of it.
The comment around the way they won it's a good one because I had the same thought after they beat Melbourne in the most recent throwdown. They came from double figures down. They could have found every excuse in the world just to roll over in that game, even though Melbourne didn't have their best lineup out there, and they just showed that little bit of resolve that was missing at the start of the season. And sometimes, that's what you can really start to build around.
Well, you can. And what it wasn't one guy that just had a 45-point game that he might not do again, or a 50-point game, or a 60, whatever it may be. It was, we're going to do this as a team. To start the game, Nathan Sobey, good decision-making, came out. The on-ball screen was really, really hurting Illawarra. They didn't have an answer to it. Then you had, Derek Walton Jr. doing his bit. My favourite big man, Jordan Hunter. Man, I love him. Best screen and roller in the game. Angus Glover came out, against his older club and, knocked down some threes. But they did it, and that old word, by committee. Everyone knew their role, knew what was needed. They knocked down the shots and they did a good job. And that last quarter, they wanted the win more than Illawarra. And Illawarra did some silly turnovers that was unlike Illawarra, but also a very, very good learning curve. And if I'm Coach Tatum, I'm sitting there and go, I don't like to lose, but that's a game I do want to lose. So I can say to the team, we can't do this, because come March, we do that, we don't win a grand final series. So I thought it was a really good game for both teams.
Yeah, so the final score is 105-110. Hawks go down by 5. You look through the stats as you spoke about right off the top. Both made 25 free throws. Phoenix just shot it slightly better. It's really the only big statistical discrepancy between the two teams. 4 of 21 from 3 for Illawarra, 11 of 30 for the Phoenix, for a team that won by 5 points. Were there any concerns for the Hawks for you from this, or are you happy just to sort of wipe the slate clean?
Well, I used the Melbourne United slate. You don't want to go on now this 4 or 5 game losing streak, right? So you got to be careful, and that's the tough thing for Tatum. This is a really tough time for players. My last season in the NBL was the first season of the summer, and it was such a noticeable difference for me that when it comes around this Christmas time, your friends are here, imports have families out, everyone's in a happy and jovial mood. I got to get up at 7:30 a.m. and go to the gym. It's not easy when you partners, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it may be, coaches, play, all your family and everything are playing and around in the city and having fun, and you've got to go to training. It's the hardest thing as a coach to try and do that. So how do you get yourself up for this? And what you don't want is you don't want to start to create bad habits. You put on an extra couple of kilos. You're not training as hard. The ball's on the floor. Do I jump on there? That's the challenge for these coaches. Last night, the Phoenix, there is no way they even thought this is New Year's Eve. This is a game that we want to come in and we win. You start to question Illawarra, what were you thinking about? What was it? And that's the thing that Tatum can then turn around now and go, you want to do that? Come March, we're not making the grand final, because it's all about the grand final now for them. That's, they've been the best team so far. So I think for Coach Tatum, that old saying, sometimes a loss is your best win. Now we'll see what happens. They play Cairns next at home. They need to come out and make a statement to go, that was a one-off.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Speaking of the Cairns Taipans, they played in the late game last night against the New Zealand Breakers. 22 losses in a row between these two teams coming into it. No Parker Jackson-Cartwright for New Zealand. They got Karim Lopez back. A relatively clean bill of health as far as how things have gone so far this season for the Cairns Taipans, and they got absolutely wiped off the floor. It was close to start the game. It really wasn't close for a lot after that. New Zealand get it done by 24 points in the end, 92-68. We'll start with the Breakers because they've had a pretty brutal travel schedule of late. Scott Roth said that on Christmas Day, going down to Tassie on Christmas Day, then to fly up to Cairns, to have to go back to New Zealand in between that. We know how tough that can be without their best player to go up there and do what they did and find answers in the way that they did through Matt Mooney having his best game of the season and Taco Fall having his as well was pretty impressive.
It was very impressive, and you can only beat who's in front of you, and we'll talk about Cairns in a second. New Zealand could have easily come in there and just gone, I don't want this. I'm not up for the battle. We'll try and do what we can, and we'll do okay. They were hungrier. They wanted the win more. They played better basketball, and they shot the ball better. Now, I know, we'll sit here and we'll go, well, Cairns weren't very good. Doesn't matter. You got to win, and the way they've come out of that FIBA break, the way that club has been hit like a tornado with everything that's gone on. Forget imports leaving, imports getting, suspended, all of that. To the players, that's really hard. You just got to play and get through that. And as a professional, you say it's easy, but it's not, right? You know what's going on. There's a lot of talk. Last night, they just wanted that. and they wanted it more. I actually thought and said in our end of our game at Illawarra that I thought this is going to be a win for Cairns. Like, I thought they were going to come out and just be hit them with a cricket bat, because this is the chance we can get a win. They're wounded, they're down, and you have to come out with those teams. But New Zealand did it to them, and, kudos to them. And I thought they did a good job to get the win.
Yeah, there's not a lot of excuses that you can find for Cairns on this one.
No.
So a 24-point loss at home against a team that's undermanned and is absolutely gone through it. And yeah, you've lost 14 in a row, so it's not like you're in sparkling form, but you've kind of got one opportunity. This is your best chance in the near future to try and crack it for a win in front of your crowd, sell out New Year's Eve. And it was apart from the play of Tanner Groves and Sam Wardenberg, who put in a monstrous shift. I think he played the first 25 minutes of the game uninterrupted, didn't get a spell. They didn't really have a lot to like out of that.
The only thing missing was when the ball hit Taron Armstrong's head when he got past was the Benny Hill music. That thing was unbelievable last night. I just did not expect that. I have always been a fan of Coach Ford. I think he's done a great job. He's in Sydney, went up to Cairns. Obviously, we always talk about the budget and the players and what they can do, and I love what he's been able to bring. I have to say that was one of the worst performances I've seen of a Cairns Taipans team. That was pretty dismal. There was just no energy, and it shocked me, is probably the right words. I thought, here's an opportunity. We can break that streak. We're going to come out. We're going to go bang. We're going to celebrate. 24's behind us. Let's get this win going to 25. And dare I say it, I hope they get a win this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fairness to Adam Ford, it seemed like a couple of times what he was instructing them to do in timeouts wasn't necessarily what they were executing when they got out there. And, the coach can only control that to a certain extent. He tried different things at timeouts. He went in pretty fired up. He was cool and calm and collected at other times. He sort of was trying to pull all the levers, and whatever he went to just wasn't working.
The thing I feel sorry for him is he's only got so much to work with, right? And you start to question, you're sitting there and you can just feel him. Where do I go now? What do I do now? No, you look at some other teams, right? I'll go this way. And we always talk about those substitutions and rotations from teams. They're getting guys in and out, and they're like, let's try this and let's try that. And you just start to question, where else are they going to go? I mean, I think it was at halftime the backcourt was like 2 or 17 or something like that. And you're not going to win games when you've got Rob and Taron shooting like that, when they're such a big part of this team. And again, take nothing away from New Zealand. Best dress coaching, can I say, in the league. Aren't they slick in their suits, man? I love them. They look great. I mean, we look great with our men's club stuff on, but those guys are hooming, and I love it. But yeah, good win by New Zealand. Love it. Well done. They take nothing away from it. Now they go home and try and get some more wins. Cairns, very big soul searching.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move off it, I think it's a discussion worth having, and it's a discussion that we'll have with sort of some respect around this one, because it's a difficult conversation. But the Adam Ford piece of it, not to say that they should, but do you think that Cairns could or will make a move as far as coaching goes before the end of the season?
No, I don't think that would be fair. I mean, you look at the way, Fordy's been able to get, and, no disrespect to the players that are up there. They're all very, very qualified and good NBL players. They just don't have the cattle that other teams have. You can't throw the ball at that guy and say, go get me this. And I just think it's unfair. And, we talk about it, and sometimes you'd like to say, well, let's see what the budget of every team is and see where every player's at. And then maybe you can look at a Coach Ford and go, well, look what he's getting out of the team. I don't know. I'm not privy to those things, and nor is anyone else, in the public that knows what's going on. But I'm a big fan of Fordy. I love what he's going to do, and I know, to me, I would hate anything to happen to him. That needs a rebuild to certain players. Obviously, they will keep some core, rebuild it, and see where they go. But Fordy is one of those guys that's very vocal, very firm with his players, and that's how. The only thing I worry is how long can that keep going before it's just the same message every time. We speak about the 36ers, and they had that, big in-house meeting, and they all spoke, and it all was, at least they're great and you need them. But you can only have so many a season. How many times can a coach keep going back to the same thing? That's my only worry for Fordy, but he'll find a way. He's done it before.
Yep, genuinely hope that a win's just around the corner for the Cairns Taipans to just try and quench their thirst a little bit. So no hoops tonight, New Year's Day, all teams get a day off.
God, no.
Extraordinary at this time of year not to have a game. But then we get back into it on Thursday with, what looms as a really intriguing contest now. So the Kings in Southeast Melbourne. Brian Goorjian, interested in your take on his recent comments. Seems like every time we chat, Brad, we're talking about what Brian Goorjian's saying in press conferences, but again, sort of almost lobbying the front office in public to make a roster move, to bring in another import, talking about not getting the best out of Cam Oliver. I mean, is this gamesmanship? Is this Gorge being out of answers? Where does that sit for you?
No, look, I mean, the first thing is I'll start on Cam Oliver, and I've said it a number of times on the broadcast. They knew what they were getting, and Cam knew what they were getting. Now, Gorge has flat out told me that, Cam Oliver says to him, Gorge, I just want to be coached. Coach me. From the understanding that I've got, they're fine. There is no way that this club has no way that they're thinking of getting rid of Cam Oliver. That's the understanding I've got. That's what I've been told. We had Chris Pongrass on overtime with us, and he said the same thing. They knew what they were going to get out of him. They didn't get the guy that was in Cairns and Houston. That's not what they did. They grabbed him out of the Chinese NBL league, which is the second division league over there, playing for the Hong Kong Bulls. This is that they knew the upside that they can get. The one thing that Goorjian always does is he will say to a player, this is the minimum I expect from you. And that's not what he's getting from Cam Oliver. That's the whole thing about this. It's not about, are we getting rid of him? Are we throwing it? No, it's none of that. This is not negotiable. These are the things. And if you don't get that done, I'm going to have to go elsewhere, meaning I'm going to have to play different players. That's what he spoke about in a press conference last week. That's what he did on Friday night. He went with Cam. He was not doing those negotiables, didn't like it, moved him on and put Spurgeon in or went a different way. The problem now is you've got Leah Pepe, who looks like, to me, it looked like a lower leg injury, but I'm hearing it could be a hamstring. That's a big loss if you've got that no Cam Oliver. So they've got that to sort out. The biggest issue on the other side is Goorjian's turning around is that I need that extra ball handler, right? That's not, Bullquall is not that guy. That's not what he was brought in. He's the 3-and-D guy. That's what they want from him, hopefully trying to grow his game. But they need that extra ball handler because what it's really shown is Jalen Adams is a 2-1, not the one in his hand all the time dribbling the ball because it takes it away from the Tuis and the Xavier Cooks. So they go and get this 2-guard now. He'll come in, move Jalen off the ball a little bit. And right now, I hate to say it, I think they need that lift. They look like a team that had been hit with a cricket bat. And I think the most disappointing thing, and Goorjian said it in his pressure as well, and I've been there and I've sat with Goorjian, I know what he would be like. If you did not expect Adelaide to come in with a tsunami after what they went through in the other night, everything that happened, if you didn't expect that, well, then you're not professional basketballers, right? Everyone knew that was coming in, and they didn't cope, and they were down by 20 in the first. That's the game to me. Forget all, the X's and O's and everything. How were you not prepared for that big hit? And Goorjian put his hand up and said, that's on me. Loved it, affection. That's what the coach does, and he's been doing it for so long. Yes, it is a bit on him, but no, it's also on the players. You got to know that that's coming. So for me, now I'm interested. What are you going to do? This Southeast Melbourne, they would love nothing better. They've got 4 ex-Sydney Kings players coming in on tomorrow, Thursday night, right? Wanting this win. They'll want nothing better than to beat the Sydney Kings. Right, Kings, here's your challenge. Forget where you are on the ladder. You just got smoked at home by Adelaide in front of a massive crowd, right? Who are you going to be? What is our ball club about? And I cannot wait to see tomorrow night. That's how I want to see what is the stand of this Sydney Kings team, and we'll see tomorrow night.
The shoe is firmly on the other foot for Sydney now, where they came in against an Adelaide team who was sort of primed to make a statement. Now it's their turn. And what have you got?
That's exactly what it is. And Phoenix, they're going to come in there and go, well, hang on, Illawarra, we got them. Now we're going to Sydney as well. Don't think this is just a one-off game for us, right? Derek Walton Jr., former MVP of the Grand Final Series, I got you. Angus Glover, we know the history with him, that Jalen Adams thing, the not playing at the end of the season, gone. Jordan Hunter, loved him. He's come in. Vodanovic has won a chat. These guys are going to want to get it done. Sobey, there was that Olympics thing. He's played for Goorjian. There is so much intrigue in this game. Cannot wait for this. Tip it off now.
Yeah, storylines left, right and centre. I'm about ready to go after you've hyped that one up beautifully for me, Brad. Hey, appreciate your company. Go and enjoy your New Year's Day and look forward to hearing you on the call tomorrow night.
Thank you, mate. You too. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year to everyone. NBL Now back tomorrow. And, of course, that big game Thursday night, Southeast Melbourne and the Sydney Kings at Kudos Bank Arena. That kicks off round 15 in the NBL.